Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back to the most complete spoken English course on YouTube, where you learn English without boring grammar, without textbooks, and without stress. Here, you learn by listening to real-life stories and answering simple questions that will boost your fluency. Today's story is called, I Got an F and I Studied All Night. Let's begin. It was a cold Thursday night, and my room was filled with the sound of flipping pages and scribbling pens. I had an important biology exam the next morning, the kind of exam that counts for 40% of the final grade. I had been putting it off for days, not because I didn't care, but because I was overwhelmed. There was too much to memorize: cell structures, DNA processes, diagrams, and complicated terms I could barely pronounce. So, I did what any desperate student would do. I pulled an all-nighter. I started at 6 p.m. with flashcards. By 9 p.m., I had coffee. By midnight, I was watching YouTube videos explaining mitosis for the third time. By 2 a.m., I was panicking, but I kept pushing. I told myself, if I don't sleep, I'll remember more. I finally closed my notes at 5:30 a.m. and got ready for school. My eyes were red, my hands were shaking, but I felt strangely proud. I had studied more in one night than I had all semester. When I arrived at school, I avoided everyone. No talking, no joking, just reviewing my notes until the bell rang. The test was passed out at 8 o'clock a.m. sharp. It had multiple choice, short answers, and an essay. I looked at the first question. Nothing. Blank. Total blackout. I skipped to question 2. Still nothing. Panic rose in my chest. My heart pounded. I felt dizzy. I rubbed my eyes, took a deep breath, and went back to question 1. I wrote something. Was it correct? I had no idea. Halfway through the test, I realized I couldn't remember anything clearly. Everything I had crammed into my brain the night before had vanished. I stared at the clock. Time was slipping away. I guessed half the answers, wrote half-truths in the essay. I handed it in with a sinking heart. After the test, I went straight to the bathroom and cried. Yes, I cried, out of frustration, exhaustion, and disappointment. I waited anxiously for days. Finally, the teacher handed the tests back. Face down. I turned it over. A giant red F stared back at me, and under it, she had written, "See me after class." I felt the blood drain from my face. After school, I went to her office. She looked at me and said, "You're not stupid, but you didn't study smart. Staying up all night doesn't help if you don't understand the concepts." I nodded, too embarrassed to speak. She continued, "You need a plan. I can help." We made a schedule together: short study sessions, practice questions, diagrams, active recall. The next exam, I got a B+, then an A. I learned that panic studying doesn't work. Consistency does. And now, every time I see a student brag about pulling an all-nighter, I remember that F. And I remind them, study smart, not just hard. Now, it's time for your quiz. Let's test how much you understood from the story. Remember, answer out loud, and you have 5 seconds to respond after each question. Ready? Let's go. What subject was the exam about? It was a biology exam. How much of the final grade did the exam count for? It counted for 40% of the final grade. What time did the narrator start studying? He started studying at 6 p.m. What did he do at midnight? He watched YouTube videos about mitosis. What time did he stop studying? He stopped studying at 5:30 a.m. How did he feel when he saw the exam? He felt panic and couldn't remember anything. What grade did he receive on the test? He got an F. What did the teacher write on the test? She wrote, "See me after class." What advice did the teacher give? She said he wasn't stupid, but needed to study smart with a plan. What were the results of the next exams after following the plan? He got a B+ and then an A. Great job. Even if you didn't get all the answers, remember, the goal is to practice speaking and listening. Now let's go over some vocabulary from today's story. Let's take a closer look at some key words and expressions from the story. All-nighter, staying awake all night to study or work. Example: I pulled an all-nighter before the test. Crammed, to try to learn a lot in a short time. Example: he crammed all night for the biology exam. Blank, empty, with no thoughts or answers. Example: his mind went blank during the test. Panic, sudden strong fear or anxiety. Example: he panicked when he saw the questions. Face down, placed with the front side hidden. Example: the test was handed back face down. Drain from my face, to feel blood or energy leave due to shock or fear. Example: the blood drained from his face when he saw the F. Active recall, a study technique that involves testing yourself. Example: she used active recall to prepare better. Frustration, feeling upset because of failure or problems. Example: he cried out of frustration after the test. Short sessions, small periods of focused study time. Example: they planned short study sessions instead of long ones. Consistency, doing something regularly and steadily. Example: he improved because of his consistency. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. You are doing something amazing by learning English with stories. If you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends so more people can enjoy these stories and learn English the easy way. This is Docentes DigitalesTV, where you learn to speak English fast, easy, and with confidence. See you in the next video.